Hey guys, welcome back to Reporting for Duty. It is Monday night, 7 p.m. At least it will be when you watch this. What is today? It's actually Tuesday for us, so we usually record a week early. How are you guys doing? We live?
Good.
Well, I'm A-Train, your host as always, and joining me is Janell West Coast. Janelle, you're in the Christmas spirit.
I am. I'm getting there. I'm usually way ahead of right now, but I just got my tree up yesterday and I just put lights on 10 minutes ago.
Oh, very nice. Well, we
Yes.
have a guest that I know you and I have been super pumped about.
Yes.
Corbin Bosiljevac is in the house.
Hey y'all, how's it going?
Good.
So, first of all, welcome, Corbin. I'm glad you're here. We've been dying to get this podcast done. We won't, but we could probably go on for hours with this deal. But yeah, we're super excited to have you. Just to let you guys know, Corbin is an author. He's written a book about his journey through life, which is wildly exciting, and we are going to get into that. But how's your week going, Janelle? Anything crazy happen with you before we get into this book?
I mean, there's always something. Nothing crazy. Like today, so I'm starting a new job in January. I told you that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of juggling both. Right now, I'm like secretly doing things with the new employer while also maintaining my current job. So
Great. Now I'm gonna have to
today,
bleep all this out.
I don't care. So today my new employer, they all got together and baked bread for Thanksgiving. And so that was a nice little highlight of my day. I was able to go decompress and go bake bread with a bunch of ladies and have chili and just hang out. It's nice to just slow down sometimes. It was really
Yeah.
nice.
You got all your fingers?
What?
Like you didn't cut a finger off while you were cooking or anything?
Baking bread?
Dude, I don't know with you. It's possible.
No.
Okay.
No, I did not.
Hey, did you see this quadruple homicide? Is it some college? I don't even remember now, Utah or something. Have you guys seen this in the news?
I saw
Y-
that it was maybe a week ago, maybe or less.
Yeah, I can't remember what state. But anyway, Fox, I don't know, this really isn't funny, but I thought it was kind of funny. It's kind of crazy. They interviewed the neighbors, and it's this young couple, and they're like, yeah, there's like no, this is an old town, kind of sound like Emporia in a way. Old town, nobody has cameras, there's like no footage of the suspect coming or going. And he's like, I'm just really worried because we don't know who it is, and my girlfriend's home alone all the time. And I'm sitting here going, this dude's on the loose. You're admitting there's no cameras, and on national TV, you're you're announcing that she's home all alone all the time.
Sitting
I'm not.
duck.
Yeah, I'm like, I was shocked that Fox was even dumb enough to air that. Like, you're just, I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny, but really dumb anyway.
I
Maybe it's a
didn't hear about
trap.
it.
Maybe it's a trap, and they're waiting.
Hey, good point.
Yeah,
Maybe. Good point. Corbin, what have you been up to? I hear you've been flying a lot.
I've been traveling a lot. I go out to Virginia once a month. I'm helping my dad open up another stem cell clinic out there in Norfolk, helping retired Navy SEALs and Navy vets that are beat up and battered.
Yeah.
And that's going good. We've been busy out there. Um, it's fun.
How often do you go out there?
1 week a month. So I've been out there
Oh,
11
wow.
times this year. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
you
want,
live,
go ahead.
no, you live in Emporia, right?
I'm in Emporia right now. I actually am spend more time up in Kansas City, really,
Oh, okay.
because we have a place downtown there too. So
Oh, okay.
there, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of bounce around, huh?
Mhm.
Did you say you're looking for a new place?
Yeah, we've been looking for a new place the past month or so. I think we're nailing a place down over in the Brookside area. We just got the inspection done, so I don't know. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. Any crazy stories from flying? Seems like there's always something stupid
That's
on a
funny.
flight.
That's funny you say that. So, um, I'm flying from Atlanta to Norfolk, and we're on the plane, and the pilot gets on the radio, and he's like, we'll be leaving in about 10 minutes, fly at 30,000 feet. we'll be there in an hour and 45 minutes, yada, yada, yada. And, and all of a sudden he finishes it and he sets the mic down, but you can tell the mic's not turned off. So you hear him up there and all
Oh
you hear him say
God.
is, you hear him say, you know what I could use right now is a nice cup of coffee and a blowjob. Everybody's like this. And you see the stewardess running towards the front of the plane. And one guy in the back yells, "Hey, honey, don't forget the coffee."
Oh my
It was great.
no.
It was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that is literally one of the best stories I've ever heard.
And I'm surprised there weren't more people laughing in the plane. I think everybody was just shocked or maybe not even paying
Or
attention.
yeah, not even present.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh
We're
my
trying to
gosh.
figure out, like, did I really just hear that?
Is this a
Yeah,
show?
right?
Like,
Yeah.
we in a comedy plane or I don't know.
Oh
Yeah.
God, that is epic. Oh, that's gonna be a great moment.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
All right, let's because I know we're going to cover a lot here. Let's get into this book. Just a little preference. Corbin. I grew up with Corbin. I normal childhood. I've heard you say that before. You got into some trouble with some drugs. Obviously, went to prison. That's a lot of mainly what the book is about. So let's get into that. I've heard you say it before. Let's cover it again. Maybe we don't have to go back to kindergarten, but you spoke about your childhood and it being pretty normal. What would you say about that?
Well, you know how Emporia is. It's quintessential small town, cruising up and down the street on the weekends in high school, going to Sonic, uh, playing baseball in the summertime or football in the fall with your buddies, just going to dances, having a couple beers before the dance, stuff like that, country cruising. Um, so yeah, it was pretty normal. And I didn't realize, I don't know how much you want me to continue, but I didn't realize until after I got out and college was good too. I went to University of Kansas, but after I got out of college is when I look back and started realizing that growing up as I was a people pleaser. I didn't know what that meant. And so I was always trying to get people to like me or, I didn't want to have any enemies, always trying to please people. And when you do that, you never please yourself. So that was like the root looking back of what kind of started all the problems.
Yeah, I mean, those are great points. And that's how I remember you. You and I didn't hang out much, but I know that every time that I had interaction with you, it was never negative. You were just always that cool dude, super laid back. Anyone could approach you. You were approachable. You were just well-rounded, solid dude, and I always appreciated that about you. So you did go to what did you get your degree in?
Journalism, University of Kansas.
Oh, nice. And
Yeah, I
so
worked
go
for the
ahead.
newspaper there, and then I worked in sales when I got out of college. Yeah,
Are you still doing journalism?
I was I was until I got fired from the Emporia Gazette. I was working there for a while.
Yeah. Well, they kind of had to fire everybody, didn't they?
Yeah,
Oh, like,
COVID kind of shut them. I mean, shut everything down. Plus, I don't think that we agreed. I agreed with their editor. Our politics didn't align somewhat. So,
yeah. Did you know I worked there one time? I was like
oh, you did?
18. Yeah, I worked in the back running that press.
No kidding.
Yeah. I
That's
didn't
a
last
sweaty
long.
job, isn't it?
Yeah, and I wanted to kill one of the dudes that
I
was
bet.
in charge there, but I won't say too much about that. Yeah, I quit one day, just right in the middle of it all. So anyway, that's another day. But all right,
Yeah.
so college, you graduate. Well, so would did you have any experience with drugs or alcohol in high school, like, or was it just your one off once in a while having fun?
I mean, I played sports in high school mostly, so I drank a little and smoked a little pot, but it was nothing. There were people doing a lot worse things than I was.
Yeah, yeah. And then college, was it kind of the same?
Kind of the same.
Or
Got a
did it
little bit.
start to grow a little?
Yeah. It started to grow a little. You experiment with cocaine and stuff, but still, it wasn't all that. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I don't know what to compare it to, but I didn't feel like it was all that often. It wasn't every week even or every month, but
Hmm.
but that's how college is. You expand and do other things and do things, make bad decisions and things like that.
Yeah. And then from there, you graduate. What happens after you graduate?
So this is where it gets kind of interesting. So I graduated and got a job with a telecom company out of Iowa. You know what? Are you familiar with Birch?
Oh
You ever
yeah,
Birch? So it was a
yeah.
company similar to Birch, except quite a bit bigger. They had about 15,000 employees. So I started working for them in outside sales, selling technology services in Kansas City. And our office and all of us were doing really good. All the sales guys, we made good money right out of college. We were excited. We were having fun, going to happy hours and stuff after work. And about 6 months in, we started going happy hours harder. They didn't just last for chicken wings and two beers. It was, 10, 11 o'clock, midnight, and you just keep going later. But we were still
Right.
successful at work. So we were like, screw it. We're still doing well. I mean, who cares if we're only getting 2 hours of sleep? But sooner or later, we started doing more coke, and that as we stayed up later, and so that's where the problems began. And then a lot of times these guys, like, we had trouble getting the drugs. Like, it's not like you can just go to Quick Shop and get whatever you want.
Right.
There's a process to it,
That's
and
too bad. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Make our lives a lot easier.
be a
I'm
hell of a
kidding.
country, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Anyway.
So I thought me going back to being the people pleaser, and I was like, okay, I like these guys. I want them to like me. I'm going to find a way to have a better connect to get the drugs. So I found a way, and I bought a significant amount and just had it at my house. That way, whenever we wanted it, we would go do it. And it wasn't like I was doing it all the time then either, but that way I was like, I was the guy. There was like, I was helping them out, I felt like.
Hmm.
And so that went on for a while longer. But then as that progressed, other people found out that I had drugs. So I started selling it to a few other people. It spirals.
Totally.
It just gets a little bit bigger and a little bigger until it gets a little bit more than I could handle, and it got out of control. And finally one day I just quit that job because I was making more money from doing
Mm.
illegal
Mm,
black market stuff, and I just quit. It was a good job. I wish I hadn't done that, but um obviously, but
Right, right,
uh
right.
um so one thing led to another. And so for about 3 years, then I did nothing. Actually, I'm sorry, about 5 years, I did nothing but just sell drugs full time.
Wow.
Yeah.
holy cow.
And I was living on the plaza. And I wasn't just, on the street corners selling little stuff. Like I had businessmen and guys that were a lot of people that worked at some other company, large companies in Kansas City. And they always had money, and they were appreciative that I could get what they wanted. And so once again, that fed my, I'm pleasing people. I'm just helping them
Yeah.
out. They're going to get it from somewhere. I might as well be me. I'm fair. I'm easy to deal with. So that was the story I was telling myself as this kept going on and on and on. And one thing led to another. And 5 years later, bada bing, bada boom, I ended up in federal prison. So that was the end of all that.
Ah.
I
Yeah.
read the book. I
So
read
yeah,
the
there's a lot of there's a lot of details in there, but yeah.
There are. I I have like 6 pages of notes that I took.
Awesome. That's cool.
I love it.
There were so many things. I don't know. I don't know where to jump to. Adam, you keep going. I'm gonna
Well,
find
okay.
something.
I think we'll probably get to this will help you lead into some of those.
Okay.
Obviously, I mean, people know how this works. Eventually, you get you're selling drugs. You're going to get arrested eventually. Uh, then comes the court proceedings, right? You've got to go to court. Eventually, you're either going to be convicted or you're going to take a plea deal. Um, and then, like you said, comes prison. Did you take a plea deal at all? Or were you just convicted? Like, how did that process
I
work?
mean, I don't know if it was I guess you would call it a plea deal because they had charged me with 4 charges, and then that went on. The battle back and forth went on for about a year, and then my attorney finally negotiated with him to only charge me with 2 charges, but then I pled guilty to that.
Right. So
So
you
I
plead
so
guilty to
yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah, and then the sentence was how long?
So I got 90 months, which is 7.5 years.
Oh.
And that was actually a win for me because I was facing 25 until they dropped 2 of the charges, and if I just agreed to do the lower sentence, so Yeah, 25 would have, I can't even imagine that. So
No,
So
I can't.
from the moment that you were arrested to the time you got sentenced, how long was that?
the moment I got arrested to the time I got sentenced, probably a year and a half.
See, and that's a
And
whole
it
nother
could have gone
issue.
quicker, but I was trying to prolong it. My sister was actually getting married soon, and I tried to
Oh,
kind of push it and so basically, like several weeks after my sister got married, then I went to prison.
I guess
Yeah.
that's nice that
Well,
you were able to do that.
Mhm.
and when you're faced with time, you do want to, right? Like you want to keep your freedom as long as you can.
Yeah.
And obviously, this podcast isn't about me. If people listen to the podcast that I did recently, they'll hear about my run in and the time that I was looking at. And it was, I know I just remember like, and two things here. One, I remember wanting to prolong going to jail if that was what the answer was going to be. And two, having worked as a cop, I always saw these cases get drug out for sometimes years. And I'm like, mine was going so fast. Like I was charged a month later, I'm in court. 3 months later, they're ready to sentence. And I'm like, how did mine go so fast? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't know. But I think my first initial question about that. 7 years. Let me add something else. I did work in the jail in Lyon County in Emporia for 2.5 years. So I'm very aware of how inmates can be treated and how shitty they can be treated and how shitty jailers can be. And then there's some cool jailers out there that don't treat you like scum. They treat you like a human being. There's very few of those. But my first question is like 7 years. Damn, dude. You didn't even have any priors, right?
No DUIs or anything like that. Nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as I'm reading the book, and I didn't even need to read the book to have that question form. 7 years, first time offender, like what are we doing?
Right.
Mhm.
And mainly it's because I was charged. It was federal charges, and they have the scale of what's what.
And which is
And
dumb.
and one of my charges that they would not drop, which I was trying to get them to drop, was a gun charge. So
Mm,
I had a gun charge. I had an unloaded firearm in a safe. There was no money or no ammunition and no drugs, but it was still there, and it was unregistered. And so I had that in conjunction with getting caught with several ounces of cocaine. And so they wouldn't drop that. They just wouldn't. That was the biggest battle that I was trying to fight.
And it wasn't used in the commission of a crime.
No,
It's
not at
just
all. Not at all.
that
Yeah.
shit drives me crazy. And
mhm.
we can
Just
get it.
present.
Yeah, we can get into it. And I'm sure it's shocking, or I don't know, maybe it's not to hear a retired police officer after 22 years. But one of the biggest things I did learn is how unfair that whole judicial system is. Like they're just, it's none of it's right. I don't, a lack of a better term. It's messed up. So my question would, and I know what your answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask it. Did you need to be sentenced to 7 years to change your life? Like what?
Well,
Let me ask you, what would have been an appropriate sentence for you?
well, you
I
know
don't,
what? What happened was probably appropriate, because that's how life turned out. And so I'm not going to argue with the way life turned out.
Hmm.
And everything's on the up and up now. Did I need that long?
Fair.
Hell, man, I got shellacked. I mean, I bet a year and a half in, I had figured it out. A year and a half in, I would be like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. I'm
thanks.
Listen,
done.
I learned
yeah,
my lesson. Thank
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can we just, yeah, can we fix this now? So, and the rest of it was just a waiting game
Right.
after that.
What were you going to say, Janelle?
Well, I remember him saying even in the book, like you look around and a lot of the people that you were in there with could be your neighbors, your coworkers, your friends, middle-aged people who have just made mistakes
Mhm.
and have been sentenced to 5, 10, and upwards of more years just for making one mistake. And it just seems unfair. Like, yes, you did a crime, you paid your time, but is there a better way? And that's really, when I read the book, that's what I was really honing in on. I work again, this isn't about me. This is about your book, but I work in foster care. So I work with the state. And I think a lot of the systems and the bureaucracies are the same. And so there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. There were times that you mentioned in there, like somebody would go down to the hole, but you come back out and there's no counseling, there's no rehabilitation. People would sneak in drugs because they had addictions. There's nothing. I couldn't even wrap my brain around no air conditioning. I would have murdered people if there was no air conditioning. And it's like, is that what they're trying to do? Are they trying to just anger you more and just treat you like animals? And I think that's what upsets me so much. And I love that you brought light to that. I don't think a lot of people understand. Well, and there are a large majority of people in the world, I'm sure, that just blindly assume, well, you did this crime and you deserve this much time. Really, though? Because if that happened to your loved one, would that be your same opinion? My son's dad actually did time in that Leavenworth camp. So it was really interesting for me to read about and listen to your perspective on all of those things. So I was completely mesmerized by the whole thing.
Yeah, you don't know until you know. I mean, I never thought about prisons or who was in them and their families that affected until I was there and I saw it firsthand. And it was a lot of people. It's not just the prisoner, it's like dozens of other people extended from them.
Well,
Yeah.
and prisoners, especially, like I think about the ones with kids, because my son went through that. And I remember, and I might get emotional, but I remember not knowing what to do. Like, I'm like, okay, I know he's not a bad person. How do I help my son know his dad's not a bad person? He just made a mistake. And got advice from counselors and therapists. And it was the best advice I ever got was do not disallow your child from seeing them. Make sure that he gets to go there and he gets to visit him. They get to write, they get to have phone calls. Because if you make your child believe that their parent is bad, then they will identify as also being a bad person. And so that was the best advice I ever had. And I parented through some really, really tough things. And I wish there was more information out there because I had to dig for that. I had to find that. I was motivated to get that information, but it makes me so sad to think about how many kids are running around this world whose parents just made one bad mistake and it ruins their lives.
Right.
So.
And there's a lot of people running around out there that have made tons of mistakes that don't get punished for it.
That don't get caught and don't get punished. Yeah.
One of the many lessons I learned when I was in prison is that life is not fair. And once you accept that, then everything goes a lot easier.
Life is not fair.
I mean, you can't compare what happens to you in a conjunction to what happens to other people. I mean, other people get more than you have and they don't deserve it. And that's just how it is. On the contrary, though, like, a lot of us have a lot of things going for us that other people don't have. Life is not fair. It just works out like it does.
Are there any crimes that a person can commit that they deserve the absolute worst treatment? I know these are crazy questions. I'm just
don't you
curious
think extreme stuff
I
kidnapping and torture and things like that? Heck yeah. And like molesting of women or whatever, anything like of that sort. Yeah.
Pedophiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. Go ahead.
There was a ton of guys in there that were just like, they messed up on their taxes. They, they screwed up at work or, I mean, like a lot of drug. The problem with the drug cases, and Adam, you'll probably agree with me on this, is I found that a lot of it is mental health related. Like, I don't think that I necessarily had a drug problem. I had mental health issues. I mean, I had anxiety or, a little bit of depression, or just like I wanted to fit in. And so you do things and then you get caught up, and it's not as physical addiction so much as it's, just mental health issues.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. And, we've talked about me a little bit, but with the PTSD and the head traumas and everything that I've been through led me down, ended up going down the pain pill side of it, and wildly addicted to pain pills. I think, this is a bad term, but luckily for me, I was able to obtain them legally. So I would, but my point is, had I not been able to, it got to the point where I probably would have started getting them another way. But why was I there to begin with? Well, sometimes or a lot of the times they did make me feel better. You're sitting there depressed, man, just here, let's swallow a few more pills. And, for me, they gave me energy. They made me feel good about myself. I would get up and be productive. And yeah. And so you're using these to help with whatever mental health condition you have. And so how do we, yes, we have to address that, and locking someone up, especially a first time offender, is not the answer. Let's dig into this. Why is Corbin where he's at right now? What can we do to get Corbin on the right track, or Adam, or whoever it is, and that would have been so much more advantageous for you. I think you met that criteria. I don't 7, and even if they just felt the need to lock you up, maybe a year, but you just didn't need 7, and that, it just saddens me.
I loved, there was a part in there, you were gardening at the camp, and there was something that you had said, that you felt like that was your payment. Like you felt like you were serving your time when you were doing that, because you were doing something that was providing for a greater need, because that food was being donated somewhere, my understanding, right?
Yeah, I felt like I was doing something that was beyond myself, that was helping other people. Putting me and making me sleep in a bathroom for, I was locked in a bathroom for the first 7 months, a room the size of a bathroom for the first 7 months. Like, that's not doing me any good, and not, that's just punishment for the punishment's sake. And I felt like I was a useful person. So I kept praying that, like, man, if just put me to use somehow, like, I don't even care what it is. Put me to use. I can be good at it, good, whatever that is. And so finally, I think I got that when I got to work at that garden. That federal officer did me a huge solid by getting me involved in that.
Yeah.
And so,
and
4
so that's
years.
what I just can't understand. Like, that makes sense,
Mhm.
especially for criminals like you, that you're first time offender, you're not violent, you're not a threat. Why are they not putting more people to good use and rehabilitating and having counselors? Now, you mentioned a case manager. So you were assigned a case manager like throughout your whole case?
Well, I got a new one at every spot that I went to, and I happened to be at 9 different spots or prisons over the course of that time. Most of it was at Leavenworth, but at the beginning, I was getting, I think you probably read the chapter, I was getting shipped from place to place to place.
Yes, wild.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Do you have a question about that? What if you had to go to the bathroom?
you don't have really a whole lot of rights when you're in prison, so they don't really care.
No,
You just have to hold it.
Pretty
Go
much.
piss yourself.
Yeah.
What?
They treat them like dogs, and back to what I said earlier, maybe depending on the guard, if he had someone that was willing to listen and work with you, but that's few and far between. And there will be guards that look you in the eye and say, piss yourself, not my problem.
Yeah, and what's wrong with those people?
Right. Mega little man syndrome going on in some of these dudes. I've worked with them. I know it. Like, they're just, and yeah, like you said, what happened to them that they now have to take their years of abuse or whatever happened to them and torture the next guy? It's
right.
It's disgusting. It's really just, it really can be disgusting. It's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a balance that Janelle and I talked about for this podcast. Like, we don't want to go through every step and just read the book
No,
to everybody.
I don't want to give it all away. I don't want to give it away.
That part of what Corbin what he went through, the different places he had to go, is a part of the book that is absolutely riveting. And just being in a holding pattern, literally show up at a new location and they put you in a holding cell, or they rip you out of a cell in the middle of the night and you're off to somewhere and you don't know where. Like, he talks about all this in the book. So yeah, we're not going to give it all away. You got to read the book. I'm telling you, and I am not a reader. I don't read a lot of books. I read this thing in 3 or 4 nights. I'm like, it normally takes me a month to read a book. I mean, I couldn't put it down. So please, guys, buy it. It's amazing. You won't regret it. You had
just a
go
note
ahead.
on that real quick. Just a note on that. I did record an audiobook too. So if you don't like reading,
Did
Oh,
you?
you did?
I went down to Cocoa Beach. A friend of mine down there owns a studio, and she helped me. It took us 3 weeks, but I read it.
So you read it
That's
yourself?
awesome.
That was rough. I don't ever want to hear myself talk again.
Yeah, isn't it hard? It's like when we listen to these podcasts, when we listen back to
Yeah.
them, Janelle and I think cringe sometimes.
Well,
But
that's actually a PTSD training, right? If you want to work through PTSD trauma, they'll actually have you write out an experience and then someone will read it back to you and then you read it as well. So it's actually therapeutic.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's
But that
interesting.
audiobook's available on Audible and Google Play and a bunch of places.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah.
So the title of the book, On to the Next Thing. Talk to me about that. Like, when did you finally, at what point were you in this experience? Did you start to develop that mentality?
So that on to the next thing kind of has 2 meanings. The meaning now is like, I'm past that part in life and I'm on to the next part of life, and moving on to the next thing. And I think people always need to be doing that in the real world. Just always keep moving on to the next thing. That keeps your mental health straight. That keeps your life moving forward. It gets you unstuck. But I really came up with the title when I was at Leavenworth. I'd hang out with a group of guys. We'd go get chow together. And then sometimes we were chatting as we're eating our crappy food. And sometimes we were just all quiet, depending on the mood of the place, whatever. But regardless, after we finished eating, every time we got up, we'd be like, okay, on to the next thing. Because that's all you can do is get up and go wherever else you can go and then go wherever else you can go. And it's always on to the next thing. So that became our little saying, our little motto to each other. And it was uplifting, it helped us because every time we said it, we knew, yep, that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Because you can control very little in there.
Right. But you can control your mentality. Yeah. What you thinking there, Janelle? I see you're wanting to say something. What'd you mark? What notes you got?
Oh my gosh.
Throw
all
one
of
at
them?
us because I have a
Literally
bazillion.
all
I
of
have
them?
a bazillion questions. I could keep going. So I seriously.
Well, I
What do you
have
got?
so many, like I feel like I want to talk for 5 hours. I don't want to give the book away. So like some of them I'm kind of picking over. I don't know, Adam.
What was the movie? Is Con Air the movie where they were?
Yes. Yeah.
That
Nicolas
one.
Cage. I was envisioning Nicolas Cage.
But it was right. But it was fascinating to hear that part of it. Like, you go out onto the tarmac and they're out there with assault rifles, shotguns, whatever.
Oh.
Right?
It was crazy. When I got moved, at one point I rode Con Air and it was in January. And so you have like your pajama type clothes and your little shoes with no socks and you're in a short sleeve shirt and you're handcuffed here and handcuffed here. And so they're pulling us off the plane. It's freezing outside. I'm talking it's 16 degrees and you're just standing outside and they got at least a handful of marshals drawn up on us, shotguns and rifles. But they don't care. Like we stood outside for 20 minutes like that. I mean, it was crazy. It never seemed Con Air, the riding on Con Air never seemed dangerous though, like it was on that show,
Right.
because it was very controlled. I'm talking, it was very organized.
Yeah. Are the seats on there just like a regular plane?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are the seats on there just like a regular plane?
Pretty much like a very underrated version of the same thing. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and
It's
it's
like Allegiant Air.
Yeah, it's
Spirit
the
or something.
Legion
Yeah.
Air.
Spirit Air.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing people don't or probably don't realize is you're cuffed, you're shackled, and then between your leg ankle, you know, you're those are shackled to the handcuffs as well. Like you've got a chain running from your arms down to your ankles as
You're
well.
And
like
around
shackled
your
to your
waist.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
wrist,
and yes,
right?
and around your waist.
Yeah.
And you're
Did
like
you read the book, Adam?
oh yeah, no. So but imagine like and you talk about it, but put yourself on a plane right now with none of that on and how much squirming you're doing. And you get up to like move around or stretch your legs, like you're done, dude. Once you're on that plane, you're not moving.
And there were some guys that had that, that black box. Are you familiar with that black
Yeah,
box?
yep.
You put a box between so you can only move like this. And
Yeah.
so there's always some part of your body that's like clenched. And I didn't have that. I had that many times, but not on Con Air. But I saw a lot of guys that did. But I wore that. I had that black box. I probably wore that black box for, a total of 50 hours over the course of time.
Right. That's wild. What was, looking back, your scariest moment? And I don't mean like your first, I'm sure maybe your first day was the scariest moment, but was there a moment? Because you always hear people are getting beat up, dudes are getting raped, like all these crazy stories.
Right. Luckily, I had drug charges, which is considered at the high end of the hierarchy, and so I was accepted at that point. And luckily, I met people at each place that kept me safe, whether it was people I liked or not. I mean, you just kind of gravitate towards some people. But there's one time at the Oklahoma City Transfer Center. I was there for about 8 weeks, waiting to go somewhere else, and we were locked up most of the day, but they let us out of our cells to go eat and then make phone calls for about 30 minutes before they locked us back up. And at one point, I was like walking or doing push-ups or something, and there's this big Hispanic dude, and I can't remember what I said to him. I was really he was right next to me, and we were kind of working out in the same area. And I noticed that he'd been there for a while, and I asked him, I was like, "Hey, man, how long you been here?" Because I was wondering, how long am I going to be here? Like, I'm trying to figure it out.
Mm.
And he got up and flexed, and he was like, "You don't ask me anything about me." He's like, "You don't worry about me." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, you're right. You're fucking right."
Right. You just try to be cordial, have a
Yeah.
conversation.
And it didn't end well though, because it kept escalating. And as he's yelling at me, he has 3 or 4 of his buddies coming, and they're all standing beside him. And then I have one of his buddies come saddle up behind me, and I'm like, "Oh, son of a bitch!" And so, luckily, there was a couple, and it's very racial in there. Everybody sticks with their own race. It's different. And so, luckily, there's a couple white guys that I would eat with that came up, and it squashed pretty quick. And they realized they just didn't know me, and they didn't know what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And then he finally realized that I wasn't trying to get at anything, or I had no ulterior motives. I was just like,
You're just trying to have a conversation.
Yeah. But you never know what kind of mood somebody else is in there. Always. You never know if they got off a bad phone call, or they just found out that they got another 5 years added to their sentence for getting in a fight or something. You just never know what people are going through in there, or they're just pissed because they're in prison. And so he was pissed he was in prison, and so was I. So
Yeah.
it's
always loud. Like sleeping's a pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
Did you make anything for your ears?
Oh yeah. Eventually, one of the commissaries you could buy the earplugs.
Oh really?
Yeah, one of them, fine, Leavenworth. But most of the other places, I would take toilet paper and stick in my ears, and then it would get stuck in my ear, and sometimes it would take days for it to get out. It was just uncomfortable all the time. Every sense of being uncomfortable was what happened in there.
Yeah. No, it's so true. So true.
Do you have do you feel a little bit institutionalized? Like, are there still things in your everyday life that you picked up from there that you just can't shake?
It's getting better. For a while it was not. Like for a while it was weird. I would say I'm kind of over a lot of that now. I there's some things that'll stay with me forever. Kind of like, I just don't bother. I let people be whoever they want to be now. Like, a lot of people get worried about what other people are doing or what they stand for. And I just want people to do whatever they want to do and stand for whatever they want to stand for, whether I agree with them or not. So I don't get involved in that. But that's something I learned in there. And I probably should have learned not in there, but that's maybe an institutionalized part of my life, but I kind of like it because I think it works
Yeah,
well for
like do
me.
you feel like another very fascinating, like I don't want to give the book away. You speak a lot about, I'm not going to give the whole thing away because I want people to read the book. You speak a lot about the universe, your relationship with God that developed while you were there. Um, I don't want to give too much away. Do you feel like 7.5 years was worth the trade to gain all of that wisdom that you did and that relationship that you did with God?
Yeah, honestly, now that I'm not there anymore, yeah. Um, because I've grown a lot even since I've got out of prison too,
Hmm.
continually. And so, I don't know. I hate waste. Time is one of the few things, time is the only thing in life you can't get more of. So, I mean, I hate the fact that it was wasted basically a big chunk of my 30s. And then your 30s are like this kind of a prime time in your life. Basically, you're not too old yet. You're kind of still young, and like you can eat whatever you want and not gain weight and stuff like that. But like, so I wish I wouldn't have missed that, but I'm all right with it.
So
I'm
that's still kind of eating at you.
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, but I'm okay with it because you know what, um, I did gain a lot. I gained a lot of perspective, and
Now
I
your
feel like I
fam
have a good relationship with God, but it's even more than God. I see it more as spirituality than just than just like a Bible God or whatever. Yeah.
right, right. And all about the universe and all of the energies and
Yeah, and I mean, I meditate a lot every morning. I take online classes through a Mind Valley. I don't know if you're familiar with them, and it's
Mm-mm.
all about like incorporating spirituality into business and things like that. And so I try to I just try to keep growing because time goes by too quick, and so I just try to enjoy as much time as possible.
I'm gonna write that down. Mind Valley, huh?
Mind Valley, yeah,
Yeah.
check it out.
Do you pay for that?
Some of it's free, and some of it you can pay for. I've done a lot of stuff on there for free though.
And you like it, obviously.
Yeah, I dig it. Yeah. I do meditations on their app every morning.
Yeah, I've been using Insight Timer.
And there's probably a lot of different ways to go about it. A lot of
Yeah. Oh, of course. I'm just saying
yeah.
for meditation, Insight Timer was one that
Yeah.
was
Hmm.
suggested a few years ago, and
do you
it's really
meditate,
cool.
Adam?
I try. I'm not. I fail sometimes, but yeah, I try.
I don't think there's a
Yeah.
wrong way. I
Uh,
would
I
my
used to be good at it, like meaning doing it every day.
oh, like
But the further
discipline.
removed, yes, the further removed from after getting out of rehab, I've kind of gotten away from it. But I need to get back on course.
So I was raised, my dad was or is, we get into a lot of very spiritual conversations, but he was a Buddhist and but didn't really share that with us as children. So like we knew we lived by the law of karma. You treat people as you want to be treated. Anything you do comes back to you, like all of those things. And in my early 20s, whatever, kind of like, hey, dude, like, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you lead us to something? Because I was trying to figure out, is there a God? Do I believe in the universe? Do I like what do I do? Because I just didn't have a direction. I didn't know how to raise my own son. But there are a lot of things that you mentioned in your book that reminded me a lot of some of the things that my dad has talked about. Um, and one being this earth plane, we don't leave here with anything, and it's just temporary. And it's very important for people to understand and grasp, because if you can like take that in and soak that in, it makes the noise of a day so bearable.
That's great. That's very true.
Hmm.
It's all just stuff.
It
And
is.
and everybody's trying to attain stuff or status. But at the end, none of that goes away immediately. I mean,
None of that matters. Nothing
all
matters.
all that matters is how you treated people and if you enjoyed it along the way. But if you're just trying to attain stuff for stuff's sake, then it's just then it's just things, and then it's just money.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
still struggle with that. This is me talking out loud on this and what you guys are saying, because you're right. And I can sit here and tell myself, yeah, I don't take anything with me. Let the small stuff roll off. But man, I struggle to let some of that shit roll off. Because the reality is, it's the here and now. It's the shit I'm dealing with. Yeah, I may not, I won't live forever. Shit I'll move on. But damn it, I'm here in the now, and it sucks. Like, what I'm dealing with now sucks. And it's like, what do you tell someone? How do you motivate them to get out of that mentality? Because there is a here and now. There is a be present. But you don't want to be here now and present on this negative crap, right? Like, that's the part you got to let go somehow.
One thing I did whenever I was having trouble with myself, depression, or I was disappointed or whatever was going on, I learned that when I went and focused on other people, ask other people how they're doing. What do you how's this going for you? What do you think? Or just get their opinion on something. If I'm having well, I did that a lot in prison where I'm just having a tough day. I would go talk to somebody I know and I would just get their opinion on something. It didn't even have to be something complex, you know.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? What's your opinion on the Detroit Lions playing every Thanksgiving, not or something like that? What do you think about that? Why do they pick them? You know, and then it just moves from there, and then all of a sudden, all that anxiety kind of starts to dissipate.
Right.
So I know it's a small thing, but that's one thing that I did.
No, I think it's great. And this, I was going to share this earlier when it comes to small things. The first thing I did after after my suicide attempt, I was in a coma. I finally get out, had to learn to walk again, do all these things. And so it was very one day at a time. But the first thing I did was, before bed, I would crack the blinds open, like halfway, so that when the sun would start to come up, light would start to come into the room. Now, I didn't have them all the way, you don't need the sun blowing right in your eyeballs or anything. And whereas, like, I used to have the blinds closed as tight as you could possibly get them, blackout curtains. Like, if it was 2 in the afternoon, it was like midnight in that room. And that's one thing I tell people, like, when you're trying to get out of this state of depression, dude, crack those blinds. I'm like, it sounds so dumb. It sounds so basic and simple that you're like, there's no possible way that this is going to help, but it does. Like, getting some light in your room can get your day going, get it started right.
Heck yeah.
That sound really dumb?
No, not at all. Just doing one thing. Like, I
Mhm.
went through a really bad depression. It was like just doing one thing. Like, if you're sitting there in a paralyzed state of depression, like, force yourself to get up and just wash one dish, which leads
Yeah.
to sweeping the floor, which leads to and getting in a routine too. I think
Huge. Routine's huge.
routine is huge. Routine is huge. And also, like, always learning. I mean, outside of like a depression, like paralysis, like anybody who comes across my path in any way, whether it's like, I used to be a pretty bad, like, I had road rage bad. I would get mad at people at the store. But once I developed a different mindset and attitude toward the world itself, like, every single thing that crosses my path, I'm like, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, why the fuck is this in my way?
What is
Like,
it trying to teach you? Yep, that's cool.
what is this trying
Yeah.
to teach me?
Mhm.
And or how can I help this person?
Yeah.
And so just getting everything outside of yourself and not thinking that everything is about you and helping others. And I've been taught that we're on this earth to do missions and help others and resolve all of our problems with anybody that we've ever interacted with. And so if we can I get caught, I'm not perfect by any means. I get caught up in the daily life, but if I catch myself and I can stop and step back, does any of this really matter? What do I really need to focus on?
Yeah, having the ability, though, to catch yourself says a lot, right? I mean, yeah, none of us are perfect. I'm sure
No.
Corbin has days where he's like, oh, I got to reel myself in. But having the mentality and being able to have that self-awareness is a huge thing. And that'll really keep you in line. On to the next thing is such an interesting line for me. I had not thought of that term when I was going through my rehabilitation, but that really is anyone that's going through rehab is like, you've got to stay focused and keep moving on to the next thing. And you start out in the morning and that might be just taking a shower and then it's on to the next, but like it might be minute by minute for you, if it's depending on how early on you are in the addiction or whatever. But yeah, I don't know.
That's funny you say. Sometimes, with addiction or like AA, people talk about one day at a time type thing, but sometimes it's 15 minutes at a time. And I remember
It really is.
at one point when I was doing cocaine and smoking crack, and I couldn't stop doing it, and I didn't even like it, and it didn't even feel good, and I still couldn't stop doing it. It was just completely absurd, completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I finally stopped one day by just concentrating for 15 minutes at a time to quit doing it. And
That's awesome.
I got through that day. So that wasn't one day at a time. That was 15 minutes at a time. But sometimes that's what you have to do, as long as you can. But it's that getting outside yourself, instead of just focusing inward.
Yeah. So before we kind of wrap this up, or I do want to get into something else, but before we leave the book, do you have any more? First of all, let me be clear, folks. There are questions right now you're going, you need to ask this. We know, and we want to. We're not doing it intentionally. You have to read the book, because I know
have so many things I want to say and so many things I want to ask, but I do not want to give the book away. I want people to go read it.
Yeah, and I know that people are like, Jesus, I would have asked this, or I would have asked that. Well, we got to be mindful of read the freaking book. That's why we had him on here, was to learn about him, and so you should get out and buy the book, because it is, honest to God, it's riveting, it's amazing, it's well written,
and it's brave. I want to know. I don't mean to interrupt you, Adam, but like I want to know at what moment you like had that clarity of bravery, like I'm doing this and I don't care what anybody thinks.
Early on.
Do you know when that moment was?
Yeah. After I was locked up for that 6 or 7 month period, right at the very beginning, I was locked, basically locked down. And I finally was just like, I was breaking down, and I called for the medic. I was like, you got to let me out of here. Something's got to give. Like, I just need to go walk down the hallway. And so they took me to this medical room, and they said, okay, the next decision is we put you in a straitjacket in a padded room, or you can get a grip. And like,
what?
And I was like, well, shit. Okay. This is where I'm at in life now. Do I choose worse, or I choose where I just came from? And so, but they did bring me a counselor in to talk to, and she was talking to me, and I was just going over everything. And she's like, what are you in here for? She's like, you don't seem like a lot of these guys I've talked to in here. She's like, you have something to tell people, or what you're going through could benefit somebody. And so that's when I got the idea to start writing. And then, and while I was in there, I just kept a journal. And so I knew early on also, this is kind of a plug for the book, the very first chapter. I just invite people to read the first chapter. If you don't like it, then throw the book away, But the first chapter is like a good intro to it'd be a good intro for a movie, or it's an attention grabber. And so if they don't like that, then then they can put the book down.
Yeah, there's no way.
And you already got their money, then just throw it away.
Well, there's that.
No, I'm just kidding.
So I am curious about, especially for someone who's thinking about writing a book, would you, I guess, are you self-published? Like, how does that work?
So I'm self-published. I tried to get an agent and a publisher, but I realized quickly I didn't have any social media when I got out of prison, and they wanted people that had like a huge social media following. And I was like, well, I don't have any social media. I just got out of, I don't have, I don't know what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, when you get over 1 million followers, and we'll go this, and I was like, oh God, like,
right.
I was like, I don't even like social media that much. I'm on there to keep track of a few people, but I don't like spending a whole bunch of time on there. And then so that didn't work. The agents wanted. It was hard because I felt like I was just got out of high school again, and I was just like new to the world, and so I couldn't even get my own apartment. There's a lot of things I couldn't do. So I just researched how to publish a book. I had to start a publishing company. You have to buy ISBN numbers. You have to register with the Library of Congress. You got to
Oh my
write the thing,
God.
you got to
Holy
format
shit,
it.
what?
There's a whole book full of stuff you got to do. I mean, I even own now copyrights and barcodes and all sorts of stuff. Like, so.
So I couldn't write a book tonight and go to Amazon and publish it. Like it's
You
just
could, yeah, yeah. But the chances that it'll sell it all if you don't have a
right.
lot of those other things to go along with it. There's something called metadata, and that's how your book gets out and is absorbed into society. And if your metadata isn't suited for what people are looking for, your book just gets put in a closet somewhere and is never seen again. So yeah,
No
you can
kidding.
write you can write a book, and you can print a bunch of your own, and then you can try to sell it out of the trunk of your car, or you can give them away to family members, or do whatever you want. Yes, you can.
So who proofed your book? I assume you were like, man, I should probably have some people check this thing.
I had several people, Pamela Humphreys, my dad, and then I hired a lady out of Lawrence. So I had three different people proof the book. Um, and then
Did that come back? I mean, I'm assuming no, because you went to school for this. Did it come back all marked up? Were you like, oh my gosh?
it still did, mainly with just ideas of how to reword things and switch things around and all.
Hmm.
Everybody sees things differently, and so
Yeah.
all of it's helpful.
Yeah.
I wish I would have got it edited more, even just because. I mean, it's all helpful.
So you would still be open to feedback if there was something. So I don't have any for you, by the way. I'm just
Yes.
saying,
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. I'm sure.
you
I
don't want
read.
me editing any of your stuff.
Of course, yeah. Of course, I'm open to feedback. I
Yeah,
mean,
Adam tries editing my Facebook post and he needs to stop.
Not true. Well, honestly, the reason I
So
asked was because
your
I told
wife, right?
right. So my one of my other buddies, Shane, has written a bunch of books, and my wife is one of the people that he goes to once it's written to
good.
proof it all. So if you ever write another book,
Mhm.
and I know Janelle would love. Janelle's like a genius with that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're
So
ever looking for
you write
people
book
to help.
two. I know two people that'll proof for you.
And I mean, I know other people that are looking to write books too.
Yep.
They just want me to help do a couple things as far as getting format the book and help them get it together. So yeah.
Yeah. And my wife is one of those that she'll read a book in a night. Literally, she reads all the time, nonstop. So, I mean, she'll get the feedback to you in like 2 seconds. It's crazy.
Cool.
She's super genius. Not me.
I have to say, I haven't read a book this quickly in a long time. I'm sure I was motivated because I knew we were interviewing you. But I was like, I would get up in the morning and have a hard time wanting to go to work because I just wanted to keep reading.
Yeah.
Shit, I have to put my book down. I have to go to work.
So
Damn it.
I wrote the book the length I wrote it because I thought it'd be a perfect easy read.
It is. It
It's
is.
because I could have put more stories in there or beefed it up, but then I don't like reading books that are too long, to tell you the truth. And so selfishly, I wrote it in like the length of a book that I would want to read.
Yeah.
People that would leaves people like not too full of it. And they're just like, okay, good. I'm glad I'm done with that.
Yeah. Well, Janelle's right though. Like the way that you wrote it, and I'm not smart. I don't know how to even
Adam,
put this into
stop
words
talking
sometimes,
about yourself like that. You are very smart.
but you did like I would look at the clock. It's midnight, and I'm like, okay, I'll stop at 1, and then I'd get to 2 a.m. and I'm like, I would have to put it down, and then like she said, I would wake up, and I'm like, I got to start reading again.
Yes.
But my point is, it was just like it's so damn well written that you don't want to put it down. There's just no other way to say it. It's epic. It's so well written. It's
Mhm.
great. I loved it, and I
Well,
hope.
and yeah.
Yeah, I'm not making this up either. I'm not trying to sell your book. I'm literally not. I'm telling you exactly how I feel, and I know because Janelle and I have talked. She feels the same way. She at one point texted me. She's like, I can't put this freaking book down. I'm like, I told you.
And I told him I can be very critical. I'm like, I can't
Oh,
put it down.
Yeah.
well,
I
I
have a hard
appreciate
time
you
reading
guys. You
books.
guys are being
I'm a
very,
person.
you're very generous. I really appreciate all that.
So any plans for another book?
Yeah. What's funny is I thought about writing a book of like how it could have gone. And so it would be a fiction book. It wouldn't be like a memoir, but
Ooh,
kind of
I
a book
like
how
that.
it could have gone. And basically I end up dying at the end. I already gave the book.
Wow.
That's so morbid. Wow.
Well, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I might
Oh,
be.
a lot of questions, but I don't want to ruin
I
this
want to
book.
know, how is sister, mom, and grandma? I loved, and brother. I love how you bring them in. I love how grandma wore the same outfit every time.
Because she
So
knew she could
adorable.
pass
So she didn't have to.
security. Yeah, the wire brought.
I love that so much. But it sounds like you have a really great, loving, welcoming family. I'm sure most or a lot of people aren't that fortunate to have family members that welcome them back with open arms. How hard was it for you? Like, I think of a lot of the things that I've done in my life that I would never want my mother to know about, even at this age.
Mhm.
Like, I think that's so brave of you, and your family must be so amazing to still accept you and love you and not judge you for that.
They're the
Tell me a little
best.
bit about that.
They're the best. They're super supportive, and I couldn't ask for a better group of people to help me get through that 90 months, the 7.5 years. That I can't ever repay them enough. I just try to make sure now every day that I do everything I can to favors for them or whatever they need to do, whatever they need help with. Um, and unfortunately, my grandma has since passed,
Oh,
and
I'm
that's
so sorry.
yeah, and that's all right because she was a great woman. She did a lot of good things, and I still feel bad for her that she couldn't wear wiring in her bra because it would set the security off. And then the story about them chewing the people, ladies in the bathroom, they're chewing their bras
Yes,
and try to pull the wire out so they could get through because all they want to do is go see their people, they want to go
I
see them.
know.
And it was like, why put them through that? Why put people through that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One lady threw her bra out. I didn't see this, obviously. My mom saw it. She threw her bra out because she had wire in it. And then she realized she can't get in there without a bra because then you're trying to like expose and do weird things. So she goes and digs her bra out of the trash to get back in the prison. It was to go see her, probably one of her relatives. It was just craziness.
It is crazy.
So they went through a lot of stuff and they told me all these stories that I didn't even know about, from the other side. And that's what got cool because they they enjoyed that part of it because it was new to them. I'm not enjoyed it like happy, enjoyed like, okay, we're helping you through this. Now you're helping us through this too, because look at this crazy stuff we're going through.
That's what
Yeah.
I think would be cool, is a book about like the outside perspective. Like
Yeah.
like sort of a dual. Have you ever seen those books where one side and like you turn it, it's upside down and it's both
Interesting.
stories?
So yeah, I could write a story about the people that came to visit me or something. They're just
Well,
all
but you would
the
like
different
write about a
experiences.
scenario and it would be
Mhm.
your perspective, and then like your
And then
family's,
you literally flip the book,
you literally flip it. It's you
I
and
literally
like
then
that.
I've never heard of that. That
I
sounds
like
cool
that
really.
a
though.
lot. Yeah.
Mm-mm. All
But
right. Well, 3% to Janelle.
there you go.
Oh God. Okay. What are you doing now? And we'll wrap this up. I don't want to keep
Okay,
you all night. We're already at an hour.
right on.
What's
Uh,
going on now?
so now, I've mentioned to you that my dad, he's a doctor out in New York City. He's been out there for about 15 years. He recently, we're starting to open up a new office. I work for him. I work with him, and I'm not a doctor. I help manage his business, and
But
we're
I
opening
play
up a
one on
new.
TV, right?
Not even that. But we're opening up a new office in Norfolk, Virginia, to help Navy vets and a lot of retired Navy SEALs, guys that have traumatic brain injury or just beat up body parts. We do stem cell therapies. We deal with exosomes, NAD, peptides, all that stuff. And a lot of those things are beneficial, not just to guys, warriors like those guys, but just people that like our age, that are in their 40s that your
Yeah,
longevity is in question now. Your life,
right.
you've lived a portion of your life, and so NAD especially is something that a lot of people don't know about. I suggest people do some research on NAD. I can't remember what NAD actually the words. It's long,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I suggest looking into it, and there's a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, Rogan talks about it, the NAD all the time. I was just looking here, and you can get it. I mean, there's places to
Mhm.
order the NAD, and then the peptides like BPC 157 is
Right?
that's a peptide, right?
Correct. It promotes
Okay,
healing. It promotes healing. Yeah.
right. So when like you said, you think you're dealing with these veterans, and you think about being blown up or whatever. But there are people, for example, like I've been having problems with my knee. This is not related to my injury at the police department. Just it's just old age, and I'm being told that and it's starting to fill up with our arthritis. That BPC 157 might be an option or might help.
Yeah.
So I
Without
need
knowing
to.
exactly what's wrong with your knee. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that help? I know it regenerates, but it's probably not going to help. Or I don't know. Does it help with arthritis? Is there a way to help with arthritis?
Because that's more structural.
Hmm.
So a lot of times it depends on how far along it is. And there's something called
Stems. Go
stem
ahead.
cells. Of course, stem cells help with almost anything. That's like putting
Yeah,
youth back in your body.
yeah.
And it's not just temporary like cortisone. It's something that just keeps growing and growing. And so yeah, stem cells, if you take them, say, intravenously through some IV therapy, yeah, they they can they can help with almost anything. So does I'm trying to prolozone is
Oh yeah, yeah. I think is that the one I have a bottle? I can't remember, or is that not one over the counter? Maybe it's Prognenolone that I have. I don't know. Those names are getting really long, but
right.
so you get a veteran with TBI that comes in. What I'm learning is one of the first places to start because I'm trying to figure this out for my head because I'm having the sleep problems, the depression, the anxiety. I can't remember anything. It's like so they're like, dude, we got to get just everything in balance first, and that we need to do a full check of just even like your vitamin levels. Like we got to make sure.
Right. Vitamins, hormones, minerals, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, testosterone, like
Mhm.
vitamin D, we talked about this a while back, is actually a hormone. People don't realize that. They
It
think it's
is.
just a vitamin. But yeah, and so start there. And then once you get someone with the TBI, get all that stuff regulated, the stuff that you can do, I would use the term easy. What's the next process? Like, what else do you do for them?
Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit because like the way we go about it is like you said with the blood work, you see where they're at physically in their health. And then what we do is a full body reboot. And that can consist of a lot of things, but you want to get your body wants to heal itself, but a lot of things we do prevent it from that, toxins and bad ways of living and injuries and all sorts of things. So you have to prepare your body to be healed before you can heal it. Otherwise, you're just band-aids over band-aids.
Mm.
And so, but specifically, you're asking about TBI.
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Yeah. So, like specifically with that, once you get your body ready to heal, which can be NAD and peptides and hormones and all sorts of things. Um, if you got stem cells intravenously and you use mannitol helps with brain function. If you use mannitol along with stem cells, that helps promote those stem cells to go to the brain and hence help that situation.
Hmm.
We would also have a lot of these vets go and use a hyperbaric oxygen chamber.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one time when I got an NAD treatment myself, I went to the hyperbaric oxygen chamber for an hour and then I came up and got the NAD and I soaked it up like a dry sponge. Just because your body is hyper oxygenated, it's better prepared to heal. And so you're just soaking it up. And so it helped that process go from about 4 hours to an hour and a half.
Is the NAD an injection? You said you did it and then you did the
You
hyperbaric.
you can do it you can do subcutaneous injections like in your
Hmm.
belly.
Hmm.
You can hook up an IV to your arm and you know sit there for several hours and just get it intravenously. If you see people selling pills, I don't think NAD pills, the NAD gets lost in the stomach acid.
Yeah, makes
Um,
sense.
sublingually, maybe if it gets soaks in your body under your tongue, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, some of those, yeah, the gut, yeah, eats them up before they even distribute
Mhm.
anything of use.
Yeah.
So how is okay, a Navy SEAL comes in because this stuff people think this is expensive, and it is it can be expensive. How are they funding it? Is the military paying you guys, or is
I
there
will
a
just say this:
program?
we don't deal with a lot of active Navy SEALs because this is not approved by their teams.
Hmm.
So yeah, I want to make that clear just in case anybody hears this and thinks we're doing something underhanded. Yeah,
Right, right,
Mm.
right.
a
But
lot of these guys are retired and they're 55, 60 years old and they're used to going out and doing everything 125%,
yeah,
and they still want to do that at age 60. So that's what a lot of these guys are.
yeah. And do they just foot the bill themselves? Does
Yeah, because
insurance is insurance start to cover any of this yet? Like,
insurance does not, and it probably won't. And there's a lot of foundations and charities,
mhm.
and so we actually just did some stuff recently with a charity, gave some money for some guys to come in and get some treatment. So that's
Yeah.
coming along. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I run into. All this is good in theory, and then you start adding up what the bill's
And then
going to
it's
be.
expensive as heck, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, geez, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just the hyperbaric chamber to go down and do that once a week. I think there's a place here, and it's not cheap, but I'm going to do it. I have to do it. I got to get
Mhm,
fixed. Yeah,
mhm.
that's interesting. The stem cell thing is, I think there's some medical stuff coming that's going to be very wild. That's going to be very useful.
The way we look at it is, I think it was, when did it, antibiotics came out, what, in the 40s or 50? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember, but a long time ago.
so they called that the antibiotic age because that changed medicine. Antibiotics could now help a lot of ailments. And then after that, vaccines came along, and vaccines were good for 80s, 90s, 2000s. But now we're moving on from vaccines to where we focus on cell therapy. So instead of just like trying to fix problems, we want to reboot and help you like prevent problems from happening before they happen. What we do really
So
took off
awesome.
during COVID because um, people
People took a
realized,
look in the mirror, didn't they?
and they realized, well, I better take care of my own health because I can't count on the government or people to tell me, or to make us go lock ourselves in our house. Like that's not going to cure anything. And
Right.
so
Well, and
they're like, if I'm
obesity
gonna,
was like the number one comorbidity, right? And
yeah,
so
yeah,
that forced people to be like, damn, I've got to look at my own health too. Like I got to get in gear.
nobody else is going to take care of you except for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it does
Yeah.
matter. Yeah.
Well, that's super cool. I'm glad that you found something you're passionate about, and what super rad that you get to work with your dad. And probably not,
Cool.
and you correct me if I'm wrong, did you ever envision a day that you'd be working with your dad?
No, I didn't want to. Yeah, I didn't want to
He's like, no.
be. But it's cool, and we have a good time out there too. We get to go out and eat after work and just walk around downtown, and it's just like pleasant, very pleasant.
That's
Is
Yeah.
your
fun.
relationship different with him, having gone to prison and now being out? Like, do you feel like or was it always just solid before, during, and after?
It's different now. We're buddies now. He was my dad before, and he was supportive, but we're buddies now, and I can tell that because he's asking me opinions on things we need to do with the business there, and I think he's just asking me to test me. And finally, I realized he's asking me because he wants to know. He wants a second opinion, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's good. It's real good.
that's awesome.
What's the one thing, hands down, that like you don't take for granted anymore? Now, like prison versus being out here. Like, do
Time,
you have one strong thing?
time.
Time.
Because I have a quote that I always say: "Time is the currency of life. Time is the only thing that we can use to buy happiness, not money, not all that. All that stuff is temporary." But yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
my girlfriend Sorrel, she gets angry at me because she wants me to go do things. And I'd be like, I don't want to spend my time doing that. And it was not because I don't appreciate what she's offering, but like I want my time. And
My time is valuable.
yeah, everybody's time is valuable to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, get your shit together. Oh, don't leave her hanging, man. Go spend some time with her.
We got Thanksgiving coming up. Yeah. It's
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, what's everybody doing for Thanksgiving?
Man, same. Just hanging out with
Same.
family and eating more food than we're supposed to. And yeah, actually, it's going to be a small Thanksgiving for us. It's going to be me, the wifey, my son, and then my mom and dad. My brother and his wife and daughter at her side of the family, and Kristen and her husband are with his side of the family. So it's going to be actually probably the first Thanksgiving I've ever had where it's just my family and my mom and dad, nobody else. It's going to be weird, to be honest. But at least we can't pass around COVID like we did 2 years ago. That's
that
where
what
we all,
happened?
yeah.
I miss Thanksgiving 2020.
Somebody in the family had it on Thanksgiving, and 2 days later we
Mhm.
all had it. Yeah. So what are you doing, Janelle?
Oh, I non-traditional going to my son's girlfriend's family.
Oh, fancy.
Yes.
What's your mom doing?
She'll be with my siblings.
Okay.
We'll get into that next podcast.
All right. Yeah, her mom.
That's
and
not for today.
Yeah, her
We're
mom's.
all gonna be loved on
Yeah,
and
good.
surrounded by love and cared for and all those things.
Janelle's mom's tackling cancer, and it's not the good one, and she is
Oh,
putting up a hell of a fight. And so I'd love to hear stories about her mom. But
I heard about on when you were interviewing Adam White.
oh, okay.
I heard
Oh
you talk
yeah.
about her on there. Yeah.
So my mom and I have decided just for us, so we just don't talk about, like, I'm estranged from most of my siblings, and it's just something I don't particularly get into because they're great people and there's nothing bad to say about them. We've just had a really bad 5 years. And so, but my mom and I are going to maybe go Black Friday shopping for the first time ever. I don't do Black Friday shopping. I don't get it.
That'll be cool.
It's something that my mom and I can do together and she'll enjoy and it'll be fun, then we'll
Excellent.
try it out.
Good.
Excellent.
All right, Corbin, I suppose you're spending it. Are you being in Emporia?
We will go to my girlfriend Sorrell's side of the family on Thursday, and then we'll go to my sister's house. She lives up in Olathe, so we'll
Oh,
go
does
up there.
she?
Yeah, and then we'll go to our place down the crossroads. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, Corbin is going to give away 4 books. So, yes, on to the next thing. There it is, right there in all its glory.
Mhm.
So we're YouTube first comment on our YouTube channel is going to get a copy. And then the first person to email us is going to get a copy. And then the third person to go to our TikTok page and make a comment on our podcast, on this podcast, because I'm going to put a blip in there on the TikTok, is going to get a copy. And then the fourth one needs to go over to Corbin's Facebook page, and they need to comment, because he'll end up sharing this, and whoever comments on there first will get the 4th copy. How's that sound?
I like that. That
Sound
sounds
fair?
good.
We'll
Yeah.
get 4, and it's worth it. And if you don't win, go out and buy it. Buy 10 of
Yes.
them. Give them away as Christmas gifts. They really are that good.
Where can everyone find your books if they
Yeah.
don't win them?
It's on Amazon. The paperback, the audiobook, and the ebook are all on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. There's some smaller bookstores in Kansas City that I like to promote. One of them's Flagship Books over on Strawberry Hill. They have it there. The audiobook is available on Audible and Google Play and a handful of others. If you search it just on audiobooks. But yeah, that unfortunately Amazon's an easy place to get everything.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I will link Corbin's book in the comments below. And don't forget about Prove It. Get some ketones in your system. Ketones right there,
Oh
baby.
yeah, there it is.
10-day challenge. If you guys,
How's that going? I heard you guys talking about that. Is that going well?
yeah, it's going good. Dude, the broth before bed is still like my favorite. I freaking sleep like a rock. And we talk about how do we get these soldiers back in order. Well, one of the number one things is we got to get them sleep, right? Like your body can't heal or begin to heal if they're not getting sleep. Well, I was in the same boat, running around exhausted all the time. So it's been amazing. So I'm just going to keep at it. We have I'll put the promoter code down at the bottom. So you guys, if you click on that'll get you hooked up, and it's a great discount. So use our code, and that's all I've got. Corbin, thank you. We went an hour and 24. We intentionally didn't, like I said, we intentionally didn't ask questions. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. Like Janell actually really said it great earlier. Thank you for being brave enough. A lot of people would just probably get out of prison and choose to never revisit or talk about that. So thank you for taking the time to share it. And I think that this will help a lot of other people that find themselves in a bad situation.
Well, I hope so. That was it's one of its sole purposes is to try to help other people. I'm glad. I appreciate everything you said. That's great. And I just asked if anybody does read the book, leave a review on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or anywhere, even if it's a bad review. I don't care. Leave a review.
No, we don't want bad reviews.
Yeah, but I love that, right? I mean, at least you're honest, right? Give it to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want
There's not gonna be a bad
whoever
review.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Oh
it's
yes,
great.
please read the book. Everyone needs to read the book. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk with us. And
You bet. Cool, guys. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Everyone, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and we'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
See ya.